For homesteading, winter is the time of rest. You want to rest as much as you can before a busy spring rolls around the corner. It's a time of peace and tranquility. You know it's cold and officially winter once the river completely freezes across, so much so that you can actually walk safely across it. Not only does our river try to freeze, sometimes the little creek on the north side of our property also freezes. It's incredible how cold it gets here some days, and how much that reminds us to take it easy, relax, and stop working so hard like we do all spring, summer, and fall. Winter is also a time for the trees to rest. Our mature, deciduous trees have clearly lost all of their leaves, and they're resting before the spring rolls around. Our beautiful, mature, white pines that I love so much are also taking it easy in these frozen months of the winter here in Wisconsin. We have a small homestead with many acres, but only about an acre and a half you can use for homesteading. Most of our homestead is actually located in floodplain. It's down by the creek and the river, which is not great for homesteading. You can't grow much down there. You can't have agriculture down there most times throughout the year. But this gives us an opportunity to be creative, to think outside the box, and to use the small acreage we do have to raise as much food as we can to last us from one year to the next year. To live a simple homesteading life in the winter, we keep the chores simple. That means each Saturday I take care of the chores on the homestead so that the other days of the week I can rest and take it easy. One of my favorite things to do is to feed the birds. To do this, I make my own suet inside the house with my daughter each Saturday. We use peanut butter, fat. This is a very affordable way to feed the birds rather than buying suet cakes at the store. It's also a good way to get my kids involved on the homestead. Simple projects like this are really fun for little kids. One of the suet cakes goes in the little green basket that gets hung on the tree, and the other suet gets shoved into what I call our suet log. Our suet log sometimes also has some birdseed put into it, just to keep the birds a little bit more interested. We can watch the birds feed on this all day long, right from our big window in our living room looking outside. It doesn't take long for the birds to find it, and it seems like the second we fill up the little green basket, the suet's gone. It doesn't take long at all on our property. We have a tremendous amount of wildlife being located right next to a river and a creek. The kids love seeing the birds fly up to the window and feed on the birdseed. We also feed the squirrels, but just in the winter. This keeps them away from the suet and allows the birds to have it instead. Firewood. It's the most important resource we have on our property. We have firewood piles all over our property for multiple reasons. We try to be 2 to 3 years ahead of schedule when it comes to firewood, so we feel safe and secure when it comes to heating our home. We have piles down by the river, by our fire pit, over by our shed, next to the house, you name it. You want as much firewood as you possibly can get. What I like to do is to keep the firewood up by the house and only bring it there one day out of the week, that being Saturday. This year we haven't had much snow, so I need to use the wheelbarrow. My best advice I can give homesteaders on wheelbarrows is always purchase one with the double wheels on the front. When there's snow, I use an otter sled. When there isn't snow, I use the wheelbarrow. It's pretty simple. I fill up the wheelbarrow about 3 or 4 times each week to make sure that we have enough wood to get us through the week. I keep it right here on the deck. It's about a face cord. We burn wood 24/7, from about the beginning of December all the way through the end of March. It saves us a lot of money on gas. It also keeps our house nice and warm. I'm a firm believer that heating your house with wood is the best way to heat your house. And if you're a homesteader with your own firewood or access to firewood, and you're not using it for firewood and heating your home in a wood stove, you are missing out, in my opinion. Once this pile gets stacked about 4 feet tall, then I'm good for the next week. We rarely go through a whole face cord, which is what this ends up being within the week. It's just good each Saturday when I have the time to top it off and to make sure we're good to go from one Saturday to the next. Once you're done, you're all set for the week and you don't have to worry about it for several days. Your wheelbarrow can go back, and the next Saturday you can wash, rinse, repeat to fill it up again. These little pieces of wood go in the house first because they don't stack very well. We can't forget about wood ash, a big part of burning your own wood inside your house. Normally I would put this in our garden or give it to our chickens for dust bathing, but we don't really need to do that right now because the pH in our garden is where we need it to be, and our chickens have plenty of wood ash to clean themselves throughout the winter months through dust bathing. I just put it in the woods. It'll naturally decompose. It's not a problem at all. Do the same thing next week. Our chickens get a lot of food from our kitchen. This saves us money on chicken feed, and it's better for them. Several times throughout the day in the winter, I like to make sure their water is open so they have access to fresh water throughout the day. This time of year, we're not getting a lot of eggs from our chickens. 4 or 5 at the most per day. So I go out there throughout the day to check to make sure the eggs don't freeze. When evening rolls around, we like to turn on our outside lights from our living room and watch our flying squirrel friends come and enjoy the suet we just made that day. It doesn't take long for the suet to be gone. And we always make sure our wood stove is ready, nice and hot, before we go to bed that evening. It's a big part of owning a homestead, living a simple life, keeping your house cozy and warm.